the football part of this, and obviously coming back from the injury. And I know in your sit down with him, he talked with you in some detail about some changes he thinks he may have to make to his game.
You know, and I've been pressing him on this issue for a while because it's clear that he has to make changes. You know, ESPN stats and information guys are always keeping me up to date on the number of hits that quarterbacks are taking. And he's right up there with Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Carson Wentz in the last 2 years, the number of hits. Those guys, shoulder injury, obviously Cam Newton. Andrew Luck's still not coming back, and Carson Wentz is out. And what I have tried to ask him is, what are the coaches telling you to do? And here's what he said to me.
The quote-unquote sit-down happens, you know, every day. Okay. You know, there's little things that we both.
Well, he said, "I'm going to have a sit-down with Doug."
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit. You know, I've talked with him, I've talked with Press, I've talked with Coach Groh. I think we're all on the same page. You know, there's always
what
things.
What page is that?
I think there's always things that I can learn from. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have been so aggressive there, and there's a time and a place for it. You know, and injuries happen. Injuries. You know, I believe this one was kind of a freak incident, and that's just part of the game. But there's always a learning curve. But overall, as an aggressive player and everything, like, I'm not going to change in that sense. I'm just going to keep learning. I'm going to be learning how to preserve myself, how to be smart, when to take those chances, when it's worthwhile, and it's a constant learning that'll happen throughout my whole career. But it's definitely something I'm taking seriously. My goal is to not miss a game. I feel I missed plenty last year. I want to be out there with the guys, but you know, it's a fluid process. We'll see what happens, but I'm confident that I'll be back week one and ready to play against Atlanta on Thursday night. And again, rehab, everything's been going well, feeling great, progressing right along. And again, time will tell. You know, it's a fluid process, but I'm confident. I'm believing that week one is a good target.
Now, why is that answer important, Michael? Because that's really the first time he has said to anybody that he's taking these warnings seriously. He's blown that question off. I interviewed him on opening night at the Super Bowl, and up to that point, he was like, you know, I'm not going to change the way I'm playing. But Doug Peterson had a sit down with him, and the coaches have been talking to him, and he agreed. Listen, what does Bill Parcells always say? The number one ability is availability, and he's got to be available, and he wants to get paid. And the only way to get paid is to be on the field.
And he had to sit and watch his backup win a Super Bowl championship while he was there. So I hear you totally. I want to continue the football conversation. Let's bring Shefty in to the conversation, our NFL insider, Adam Schefter. And Shefty, earlier this hour, we had the story about how it is now official that Jason Witten is retiring, and he is going to join us at ESPN as an analyst on Monday Night Football. That seemed to be going back and forth over the last week. Take us inside.
Well, that's exactly what happened, Greeny. He was getting pressure from some within the Cowboys organization to come play one more year, to be that security blanket for Dak Prescott, to be that red zone threat that Dallas did not want to lose. I think Jason Garrett absolutely wanted Jason Witten back for this year. And there was a moment the last couple of days where there were people in that organization and people close to Witten who thought he would play football. And even after last week, when Mort had reported that Jason Witten was expected to retire, was on the verge of retiring and joining the Monday Night Football booth, I can tell you that Jason Witten backtracked from that this week for a period of time to where it looked like he might play another year of football. And then again, he flip-flopped. Look, it's a big decision for somebody to make, for somebody who has had football to be such a major part of his life. He really vacillated on giving up the game. But in the end, ultimately, these opportunities come along so infrequently. And to be able to work in the booth next to Joe Tessitore and to do Monday Night Football, I think in the end, proved to be too much for Witten to bypass. But I can tell you for a while, it looked like he might be playing football this week.
He's going to the Hall of Fame. You surprised by this?
Wait a minute, Shefty. Are you telling me that Carson Wentz says he's coming back in the same second segment as Get Up as Jason Witten is no longer going to be a Dallas Cowboy? In Philadelphia today, that's two headlines, right? The Philadelphia Eagles just got and they also picked a tight end named Dallas. So, I mean, it's a win-win-win for the Eagles.
Well, let me say this. Look, Carson Wentz, of course, is going to say that and think that. The fact of the matter is the Eagles are going to be so careful not to rush him along. Yes. And when he suffered that injury last year in December, they said it was a 9 to 12-month injury. 9 months would be around opening day. That would be aggressive and ambitious for him to play. And how many times have we heard athletes say, yeah, I'm going to play? We hear it all the time in the NBA. A guy gets hurt one night, I'm going to play the next night, and he doesn't. So this is the kind of thing that even though it's May and even though Carson Wentz is saying that he's confident he'll be back, it's another thing to actually see him back, and there's a lot of time that has to transpire between now and then before we do see him on the football field. Plus, when you've got the Super Bowl MVP on the bench, it's rather easy to rest the face of your franchise, the most important player you have for the next dozen or so years, and not rush him along.
Yeah, it's why the backup quarterback can be such an incredibly valuable person. Let me get something from you on Dez Bryant here. We're still waiting to see what's going to wind up happening with him. There's questions about him to some degree off the field, certainly on the field. What's the latest with him?
Well, you heard some stinging criticism from Will McClay in the Cowboys front office this week. And the fact of the matter is, there has not been a lot of interest so far in Dez Bryant. The Baltimore Ravens were the most aggressive team for him out of the gate, and they offered him a 3-year deal worth about $7 million a year. And I don't see Dez Bryant coming up with another deal that's going to be anywhere close to what the Baltimore Ravens were offering him. He's talked about the fact that he'd like to play in the NFC East. To date, there's not been an NFC East team willing to step out there and offer him the kind of contract that he would want, much less make him an offer. So we'll see which team decides to step up. There's still a place for Dez Bryant, but there has not been a place that has identified itself so far as an obvious landing spot for Dez Bryant. NFC East hasn't worked out. Baltimore Ravens, he bypassed, and now he's in a holding pattern to see what other opportunities materialize.
How about his workout buddy, Odell Beckham, Sal? I mean, that feels to me, the Giants look like they're putting all their eggs in a short-term basket, right? They're staying with Eli. They bring in Saquon Barkley. You bring this guy in now, maybe he's just as a red zone threat. Would that make any sense to you?
Well, they already have a red zone threat in Odell Beckham Jr. And the bottom line is they have a tight end who controls the middle of the field now, a rookie tight end, second year. They have Odell Beckham Jr. who controls outside the hash marks. I think the Giants are set.